What if the most important person you will ever meet in your entire life is not sitting in any office, not waiting at any party, not introduced through any friend, but standing alone on the side of an empty road in the middle of nowhere, waiting for someone, anyone, to simply stop? What if that one decision, that one single moment where your foot moves from the accelerator to the brake, becomes the exact turning point that separates the life you are living right now from the life you were actually born to live? Most people drive past. Most people look straight ahead. Most people tell themselves, it's not my problem. It's not safe. I don't have time. But what if time, your time, was always leading you to that exact moment on that exact road? I picked up a stranger once. No name, no explanation, no reason to stop. Every logical instinct told me to keep driving, but something deeper, something ancient and unexplainable, made me stop that car. And what happened next? I still cannot fully explain. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you will never look at a stranger the same way again. And more importantly, you will never look at yourself the same way again. This is not just my story. This is a message that was meant to find you, today, at this exact moment. What if the universe doesn't speak to you through thunderstorms and lightning bolts? What if it doesn't send angels dressed in white or messages written across the sky? What if the universe, in its infinite, mysterious, and utterly shocking wisdom, sends its most important message to you through a tired, dusty stranger standing alone on an empty road with nothing but a worn-out bag and broken shoes? That is exactly what happened to me, and I need you to understand something before I go any further. I am not a deeply spiritual person by nature. I am not someone who believes in coincidence easily. I am logical. I am practical. I have spent years building walls around my life, walls made of routine, schedule, comfort, and carefully planned decisions. I had a plan for every single day. I had a direction for every single moment. But the universe has a shocking habit of destroying your plans in the most beautiful ways possible. It was an ordinary evening, the kind of evening you forget before it even ends. The sky was that strange color between gold and gray. The road was almost completely empty, and I was driving back from what had been an exhausting, deeply frustrating week. My mind was somewhere else entirely, running through problems, deadlines, disappointments. I was present in body but completely absent in spirit. And then I saw him, standing at the edge of the road, not waving frantically, not holding a dramatic sign, just standing there, still, quiet, with an expression on his face that I cannot fully describe even today. It was not desperation. It was not fear. It was something that looked almost like patience, like someone who had been waiting for a very long time and had somehow made peace with the waiting itself. Every warning voice inside my head activated immediately. Don't stop. You don't know him. It's getting dark. What if something goes wrong? What will people think? What if this is a trap? I had heard all those voices before. We all have. Society spends years carefully installing those voices inside us, voices of caution, voices of self-preservation, voices that disguise fear as wisdom and isolation as intelligence. But I stopped the car. I don't know why. Even now, years later, I cannot give you a perfectly rational explanation for why my hands turned that steering wheel toward the shoulder of that road. Something beneath logic made the decision before my logical mind could stop it. He walked toward the car slowly. He was older than I initially thought, perhaps in his late 60s. His clothes were simple, almost threadbare. His hands showed decades of hard work written across every line and callus. He looked at me through the window with eyes that were startlingly clear, the kind of clarity that takes years of living to achieve. He said only 4 words before getting in. "Are you sure, son?" Not "thank you," not "I really need help," not "God bless you." He asked if I was sure, as if he already understood what it had cost me to stop. as if he already knew about the war that had just happened inside my chest between fear and faith. That single question shattered something inside me that I didn't even know needed shattering. I told him yes. I told him to get in. For the first several minutes, we drove in silence. And here's what shocked me. It was not an uncomfortable silence. It was not the awkward silence between two strangers pretending not to notice each other. It was something fuller than that. Something that felt more honest than most conversations I had experienced in years. Finally, he spoke. He did not tell me his full name. He told me to call him whatever I wished, that names were just labels people used to sort each other into boxes. He said the most important things about a person could never fit inside a name. He had been walking for 3 days, not because he had no money, not because he had no home to return to, but because he had made a decision, a terrifying, completely illogical, life-altering decision, to walk away from everything he had spent 40 years building. A business, a reputation, a carefully constructed identity. He had walked away from all of it on a Tuesday morning, with nothing but a bag containing a change of clothes, a small notebook, and a single photograph. I wanted to ask him if he was crazy. I wanted to ask him how someone does that, how someone simply walks away from 40 years of work, 40 years of identity, 40 years of everything the world told them they were supposed to want. But before I could ask anything, he looked at me with those impossibly clear eyes and said something that I have carried inside me every single day since that evening. He said, "Son, most people spend their entire lives becoming someone they never actually wanted to be. And the saddest part is, they do it so slowly, so carefully, so reasonably, that they never even notice it happening. They wake up one morning at 65 years old, successful by every measurement the world offers, and they realize they have been living someone else's dream so expertly that they forgot they ever had one of their own." The road ahead blurred slightly, not because of rain. He continued. He told me about a young man he had once been, a young man who wanted to paint, who wanted to create, who had a hunger inside him for art and color and beauty that he described as almost violent in its intensity. He told me about the morning his father sat him down and explained, very calmly, very lovingly, very reasonably, that painting was not a life, that stability was more important than passion, that being responsible was more valuable than being fulfilled. And he had listened. He had nodded. He had been a good son. He had made the practical choice. And then he had made it again, and again, and again. 40 years of practical choices, each one individually completely reasonable, collectively amounting to a life that looked impressive from the outside and felt hollow from the inside. Until one Tuesday morning, he woke up and realized he could not make one more practical choice. Not one more. So he packed that bag. He put that photograph, a painting he had made at 17 years old, the last painting he had ever made, into the bag. And he walked out the door. He was going somewhere he had never been. He was not entirely certain where. He said the destination was less important than the direction. And the direction was simply toward himself. I pulled the car over. Not because we had reached any destination. I pulled over because I was crying, and I did not want to endanger us both by driving through tears I had not seen coming. This stranger, this man I had nearly driven past, had just described my life with a precision and an intimacy that should have been impossible. He had never met me. He knew nothing about me. And yet every single word he spoke landed somewhere deep and specific and undeniable inside my chest. I had been doing it too. Not with painting, not with art, but with something. With writing. Something I had loved with a passion I could no longer fully remember because I had buried it so carefully, so reasonably, under years of practical decisions and responsible choices and sensible priorities. I had forgotten I had a dream. And this man, this stranger on the side of the road who asked me if I was sure before getting in my car, had just reminded me in less than 20 minutes of conversation. We sat there on the shoulder of that road for almost an hour. We talked in ways that I have rarely talked with people I have known for decades. There was something about the total absence of history between us that made absolute honesty possible. He owed me nothing. I owed him nothing. There was no reputation to protect, no relationship to manage, no future to be careful about. There was only truth. He told me that kindness, real kindness, the kind that costs you something, is always a two-way transaction, even when it doesn't appear to be. He told me that when you stop for someone who cannot offer you anything in return, something in the universe shifts, something opens, something that was closed, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, cracks open just enough to let light back in. I asked him what I should do. He smiled, and it was the smile of someone who had arrived somewhere after a very long journey. Not a destination on a map, but a destination inside themselves. He said, "You already know. You've always known. The only question is whether you'll be brave enough to stop driving past it." He got out of the car at a small crossroads about 15 minutes later. He thanked me. He looked back once, and then he walked forward without turning around again. I watched him until I could no longer see him. And then I sat in that car alone for a long time. That was the evening I decided to start writing again. Not the next month, not the next year. That evening. That specific evening with the gold and gray sky, and the empty road, and the echo of an old man's words still filling every corner of the car. I want you to hear something very carefully right now. The moments that change your life forever rarely look dramatic when they are happening. They do not arrive with music and slow motion and obvious significance. They arrive looking exactly like everything else, like just another evening, just another road, just another ordinary moment that you could very easily drive past without stopping. The invitation to change is almost never loud. It is almost always quiet, almost always standing on the side of a road, almost always asking you, in a voice just above a whisper, whether you are sure. The question is not whether those moments come to you. They come to everyone. The question, the only question that actually matters, is whether you will stop. Will you take your foot off the accelerator? Will you turn the wheel? Will you look past every warning voice and every reasonable objection and every fear dressed up as wisdom? Because the stranger waiting for you on the side of your road is not always a person. Sometimes the stranger is an idea you dismissed too quickly. Sometimes it is a dream you packed away in a practical box years ago. Sometimes it is a version of yourself you decided was too impractical, too risky, too much to hope for, and it is standing there, right now, patient as an old man with clear eyes, waiting not with desperation but with something that looks almost like peace, waiting for you to simply stop. What would happen if you did? What would happen if today, not someday, not when things calm down, not when you feel more ready? What if today you stopped driving past the life you actually want to live? What if the most important turn you ever make is not on any map, not toward any destination anyone else has charted for you, but simply inward, toward yourself, toward the thing you have been too reasonable to admit you still love? The stranger on my road gave me back something I had given away so gradually I barely noticed it leaving. He gave me back my own voice, and I have been using it ever since. Every road you travel carries more than asphalt and distance. It carries possibility. It carries encounters designed, by something larger than coincidence, to redirect you toward the truest version of your life. The stranger I picked up that evening gave me nothing material. He offered no money, no connections, no practical advantage of any kind. What he gave me was infinitely more valuable. He gave me the mirror I had been avoiding for years. He showed me my own reflection without filters, without flattery, without the comfortable lies I had been telling myself. You will have your moment. Perhaps you already have and did not recognize it. Perhaps it is coming tomorrow on a road you have never traveled. Perhaps it arrived this very day, in a conversation, in a silence, in a story that landed somewhere unexpectedly specific inside your chest. When it comes, be ready to stop. Be ready to turn the wheel. Be ready to ask yourself the question the old man asked me before he got in the car. Are you sure? And then, be brave enough to say yes. Because the life waiting for you on the other side of that yes is the one you were always meant to live.